All right, guys, I'm going to graph more simple rational functions today. We're going to take a step up today, a little notch higher than we did yesterday, so get ready for that. Also, even more importantly, I don't know if it's more important or not, but it's important. We're going to have our first Google Meets tomorrow, Wednesday at 10:45. Class technically starts at 10:40. I just thought it was kind of weird, so we'll go around at 10:45. Y'all need to be here as we're required to do it, so be there or be square. You may have to help me a little bit because you all have done this. This will be my first Google Meets because you're the first class I have of the day. So help me out. Make sure you're there. Make sure you're there. It will affect your grade. All right. The difference today, still graphing rational functions, but the form is going to look a tad bit different. If you're looking at this and then wondering what's different about that form, there's an X in the numerator. Yesterday we just saw numbers in the numerator. We're going to put an X in there. That's going to change one thing. It's going to change your horizontal asymptote. Your horizontal today is going to be y equals a over c. If you're looking at the form up here, that's called your leading coefficient. Your two leading coefficients, you put the first top one over the bottom one, a over c. That gives you your horizontal every time. The vertical asymptote is still going to be whatever makes your denominator 0. And that's the only new thing. Other than that, it's just the same as we did yesterday. So one more time. Your horizontal, you put the leading coefficient of the numerator over leading coefficient of the denominator. Your vertical asymptote is whatever value makes your denominator 0, because that would be an undefined fraction if you have 0 on the bottom. Okay, that was good right there. First problem says graph this thing. Graph y equals 2x plus 1 over x minus 3. And what I've done to speed this up a little bit, I've gone ahead and graphed my asymptotes, or your asymptotes on here. The denominator is x minus 3. 3 would be your vertical, because that would make your denominator 0. So go ahead and do that one. Your horizontal, you put the leading coefficient on the top, which is 2, over the leading on the bottom, which is 1. 2 over 1 is 2. So I'll do the horizontal one right here at y equals 2. And now I got to figure out where your curves go. All right, so I went to my calculator and I punched the equation in. I punched that in. Make sure you use parentheses around the top and the bottom. And there's a table I got. All right, now I need to get points on the right side of the asymptote, the vertical asymptote, and the left side. So I'm looking at 4 and 5. So I'm looking at these 2 points right here. This says 4, 9. So I'm going to 4, 9. And it says 5, 5.5. So I'm going to 5, 5.5. About right there. And you can draw your curve right through the 2 points, just like that. And then I need some points on the other side, so I'm going to pick 2 and 1, which are right here. It says 1 is negative 1.5, so 1 is negative 1.5, which is right there. It says 2 is negative 5, which is way down here, 2, negative 5, which means that part of the curve is going to do this. So I have 2 points, draw my curve. Your domain, remember, domain is x. Look at your graph left to right. What number does it jump? Where's the asymptote? The asymptote's at 3 when you're looking left to right. Your range is where your asymptote is when you're looking at your graph up and down, which is at 2. So y cannot equal 2. And there's your info. There's your graph. There's your domain and range. You're good. Look at a couple more. This one says y equals x minus 1 over x plus 3. Again, denominator is x plus 3. Shifts your graph left 3, so I'll do my vertical at x as negative 3. My leading coefficient on the top is 1. Leading on the bottom is 1. So it's 1. So I'll do my horizontal one at 1. So I need to figure out where my curves go. So I'm going to look at to the right of the asymptote, looking over here. Negative 2 and negative 1 are the first points. There they are. Negative 2 is negative 3, which is down here. Negative 1 is negative 1, which is right there. And we're going here, just like this. And then I'm looking on this side of the asymptote, which means I'm looking at negative 4 and negative 5, which are way up here. If you look at it, it says negative 5 is 3, which is there. And negative 4 is 5, which is way up here. You can draw your curve. And there's your hyperbola. Remember, the graph is actually called a hyperbola. The domain, x, look left to right. X cannot be negative 3. That's where the vertical asymptote is. Your range, look at your y, look up and down. Y cannot be 1. That's where the horizontal one is. And there you go. Okay, so it's the same thing over and over again. I'm going to show you one more that has a fraction in it. These are all fractions. But I'm going to show you'll see what I mean when I show it to you. All right, it says graph y equals 2x plus 1 over 4x minus 2. And now, one thing you got to figure out first is what makes your denominator 0. So if you need to bring it over here to the side and say 4x minus 2 is 0, move the 2 over, divide by 4, I get x is 1 half. So my vertical is a 1 half. So I'll try to draw that right there, right through 1 half. Then your horizontal is the leading coefficient of your numerator over leading of the denominator. If you reduce that, that's 1 half. So my horizontal right here was also 1 half. So I'm looking to the right of 1 half, which would be 1 and 2 right there. And I'm looking to the left of 1 half, which would be 0 and 1, which I just kind of covered up, 0 and negative 1 right there. So if I look at 1, 1 is 1.5, which is really close right there. And if I look at 2, it's like 0.833, which is not even quite 1, but it's, right there. So I'm going to draw my curve right through there. And then I'm looking at the other side of the asymptote, looking over here. So I'm looking at 0 and 1. 0 about covered it up. 0 is negative 0.5, which is about right there. And negative 1 is 1 is point. It's actually positive, barely positive, like barely above the axis right there. So your curve is going to do this on this side. And there's your two curves. There's your hyperbola. Domain. All x's look left to right. X cannot equal 1 half, because that's where the vertical one is. The cool thing about this is they're both 1 half, so even if you messed it up, you would still be okay. Y, if you're looking at a graph up and down, it has to jump over 1 half. That's where the horizontal asymptote is. And guys, that's it. That's the new stuff. Your assignment's going to be a Google Doc. You have a few graphs on Google Doc to graph just like this. Make sure you tell your domain and range. You can use your calculator to find the points to help you. I'm absolutely fine with that. And I will see you on Wednesday morning at 10:45. So make sure you're there. Have a good day.